What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. You guys thought the prediction season was done for me, right? After predicting 133 teams, oh, Nate, you must be so tired of making predictions. Well, we still got 10 games left to go, and that is my predicted 2023-2024 conference championship games. We are going to go through each and every one of the 10 conferences, show you guys who I have making the conference championship game, and give you a winner for those games as well. But before we do that, I just want to say I am stunned by the growth and support of this channel this summer. It has been fantastic to see the channel grow to the size that it has today. I couldn't be prouder. If you guys want to continue to show support, continue to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I'm going to post videos during the season as well and keep you guys updated on stuff over on my community tab there as well. So make sure you guys check that out. But there are more ways than that to help me support my channel. Again, you're doing one right now by watching the video. Again, you can go do it by interacting with the community tab, or on the video you can like, comment, share, anything else that you may be willing and able to do to help show your love and support for the channel. So again, I just said what we're going to do. We're going to go through my 10 conference championship game predictions and give you a sort of a reason why I have both of those teams there, and then give you a winner for that game as well. And we are going to go in order of the way I predicted conferences. So the SEC will start first, and we will move down the list to Conference USA. So without further ado, guys, here are my predicted conference championship games and winners for 2023. Of course, we're going to start with the best conference in college football, that is the SEC. And really, it's two very familiar faces that you see on screen before you. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think I need to explain too in-depth on why they are here. A loaded defense, even with all the talent they lost. Carson Beck is going to prove, in my opinion at least, to be a pretty solid quarterback. They have the best tight end in the nation in Brock Bowers. Back-to-back national champions, a head coach that you can make the case on why he is the best in the entire country. Georgia will win the SEC East and get into the SEC championship game. Alabama is here, maybe to the surprise of some. I see a lot of talk about how this Alabama dynasty is dying day by day, and that I just don't think is true. While it has been true that Georgia may be taking over that top spot in the SEC, Alabama is not going anywhere, guys. They have, in what my opinion is the best head coach of the country in Nick Saban. And even though they don't have necessarily maybe some of the star power at the quarterback position that they've had in previous years, Tyler Buchner is in. He may end up winning that starting job, although there are a couple other guys competing for that job as well, such as Jalen Milroe and others. But there is a lot of nice talent offensively. The defense, I think, is loaded. Alabama's going to be a really good team this year, and I do think, even though they may lose a game, I have it being the Texas A&M. It could potentially be to LSU as well, in which case LSU may make the conference championship game. But I have it being the Texas A&M, in which Alabama will find themselves in the SEC championship game. And we've seen this dance in Atlanta before, and more often than not, it has gone the way of the Alabama Crimson Tide, but not this year. I do think the Georgia Bulldogs will be winning the SEC championship for the second consecutive season. Again, remember, 2021, Georgia did not win the SEC. That was Alabama who won the SEC, went on to lose to Georgia in the national championship game. Georgia will get their revenge, continue their win streak over the Crimson Tide, and I have them getting a touchdown win over the Crimson Tide. Just a little bit too physical for Alabama to be able to handle, so that will be a win there for the Georgia Bulldogs, who I think will be champions of the SEC for the second consecutive season. We are now moving on to the Big Ten Conference, where I have the Wisconsin Badgers, going to be a little bit of a new look Wisconsin Badgers this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit, against the Michigan Wolverines. We're going to start with the Wolverines because they don't require much explanation why they are here. Michigan, I have said it all year long, and again, you'll find out my actual prediction in my college football playoff video, along with New Year's 6 games, which comes out tomorrow. But talking about the Michigan Wolverines in 2023, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, both of them are back. J.J. McCarthy, he's back. One of the better quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the Big Ten, the best running back duo in the entire nation, again with Corum and Edwards, an offensive line that's going to be stout, and a defense that, while again loses a lot, brings in some very good transfers to help boost it up, and I think they're going to be the best team in the Big Ten again this season, even getting their third straight win over the Ohio State Buckeyes is my prediction. But back over to the Wisconsin Badgers. This is going to be a new look Badger team. You have Tanner Mordecai coming in at quarterback. He's a 3,500 yard, 35 passing touchdown type player. Wisconsin is still going to have the physical running ability of Braylon Allen. He is there. Wisconsin's still going to be able to run the football, but it adds a much bigger dynamic when you're able to throw the football as well. I think that's what Tanner Mordecai, this Luke Fickell defense is still going to be really good. Wisconsin, I think, will win the West, make the Big Ten championship game, but I still do not think they are going to be enough for the Michigan Wolverines. These two teams do not play each other in the regular season, so it'll be a fresh matchup. I just don't think that Wisconsin is going to be able to handle the physicality that Michigan is going to be able to bring. Michigan's been in this position before. They've won back-to-back Big Ten titles, and I think they do it for a third straight year. I do have them getting a fairly comfortable win over the Wisconsin Badgers here. I just don't know if Luke Fickell's team is going to be able to handle this big of a moment, even though Luke Fickell has been on a bigger stage than this in the college football playoff. But Michigan, I think, is going to be too physical, too sound offensively, too sound defensively. They walk away with a win against the Wisconsin Badgers in the Big Ten championship game, the third straight for the Michigan Wolverines. We'll move on to the Pac-12 now, where I have the USC Trojans and the Washington Huskies in the Pac-12 championship game. We'll start out with the USC Trojans, who are going to be back in the Pac-12 championship game for the second consecutive season. Again, it's just amazing how quick of a turnaround Lincoln Riley's been able to force upon there. That defense, though, is suspect. We know what the offense is going to be, right? Caleb Williams, a loaded group of wide receivers. USC's offense is going to be one of the best in the country. But the defense, Lincoln Riley has never really been a defensive guy, and you do have Alex Grinch as defensive coordinator, not the best in my opinion. However, USC has added a lot of potential depth to that defense, and some of these transfers work out. Well, watch out, because USC's defense could be loaded, rearing, and ready to go. And while the defense has improved, again, still got to answer some questions on the field. Let's move over to the Washington Huskies, whose defense has to answer some questions itself. That passing attack last season was abysmal, and it's got to get a lot better here in 2023 for Washington to be able to win the Pac-12 and maybe even crash a college football playoff party and end the Pac-12's drought. But when I take a look at the Washington Huskies, Michael Penix has one of the best wide receiver rooms in the entire country with Rome Odunze, and a lot of other guys in there as well. And back to that defense, if that passing defense, my apologies, can improve and the defensive front seven can stay healthy, watch out for the Washington Huskies this year. Very well could be a team you see in the college football playoff. Unfortunately, if USC wins, I do not feel they will make the playoff. That schedule is very backloaded, and until I see that defense improve, I do only have them at 10-2. But this is a game right here where I do believe if Washington is able to win it, they will be in the college football playoff. Sadly, I just do not think that is going to be the case. I think USC, Caleb Williams, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. This is going to be very high-scoring, high-intensity, offensive game. And I think USC, maybe not having to play a team with the physicality quite like Utah, is going to benefit them here. And I do see USC walking away with a Pac-12 championship game. Sadly, with the two losses, it likely means no college football playoff, unless, of course, we get chaos this year. But I do have the USC Trojans walking away, winning the Pac-12 conference there in 2023. Okay, we will now move on to the Big 12 championship matchup, which, again, it is classic. It's the Red River rivalry in the Big 12 championship game. Texas and Oklahoma. Now, it seems like a very safe prediction, but knowing what the Big 12 has been in seasons past, who knows? Kansas State, TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, maybe even UCF or Kansas could find their way in the Big 12 championship game this season. But I went with Texas and Oklahoma. We are going to start with the Longhorns. They are the easier to explain why they are here. Quinn Ewers, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He has an embarrassment of riches in the wide receiver room. It starts with Xavier Worthy. They got A.D. Mitchell, a transfer, coming over to that program as well. Isaiah Nair, if he's healthy, is going to be a big part to that team. You got a really good running back room, even though Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson are gone. The defense is again with its woes, but has seen improvement from seasons past. I think Texas is the best team in the Big 12. I see them in the Big 12 championship game. And Oklahoma is going to have a very dynamic offense with Dylan Gabriel at the helm. It's going to be a very good offensive team for the Oklahoma Sooners. However, the problem is going to lie with that defense. It was abysmal last year, and I have good faith that it's going to improve this season. However, up to this point, they haven't really shown much as to why it is going to get better. Now, again, maybe during a fall camp here, it has gotten much, much better. But I do believe Oklahoma, with the strength of their offense. I think their defense is going to be a lot better this year, going to be able to make some stops, force some turnovers when it needs to. It might not be able to do it often, but I think it's going to be able to do it when it needs to. It'll lead Oklahoma back to the Big 12 championship game. So these are the two teams that are headed out of the conference for the SEC at the end of the season. Fitting that I have them playing in a Big 12 championship game to round out their Big 12 careers. And I do have Texas walking away with the Big 12 championship game. Simply too loaded offensively for this Oklahoma defense to handle. Again, that defense in Norman definitely going to have to prove to me that it is worthy of a Big 12 title. But for right now, that title belongs to Texas. They will be Big 12 champions in 2023. Moving on to the ACC, a game that I think right here, Clemson and Florida State, you see the records at the bottom of the screen. This is a game that I do believe the winner will wind up in the college football playoff. We'll start out with the Clemson Tigers on the left-hand side of your screen. Clemson definitely had a very disappointing season last year, and I think it started with the offense. DJ Uyunglele just did not perform well. There was a little bit of a passing of a torch to Cade Klubnik, and he had his moments, but again, overall, maybe did not live up to expectations fully either. Clemson does, however, have a lot of good returning talent at wide receiver. The running back room is going to be loaded. Clemson's going to have one of the best defensive lines in the entire country as well. So watch out for that Clemson defense there. They're also going to be one of the best in the country, but the offense is going to improve. Garrett Riley's an offensive coordinator. He did wonderful things for TCU last season. If you watch Quentin Johnson, Max Duggan, and that offense last season, I do think Cade Klubnik is going to be able to explode. Will Shipley there at running back. There is a good group of pass catchers there as well. I see no reason why the offense does not get better for Clemson in 2023, if not substantially better. I think it winds them up in my apologies, back in an ACC championship game appearance. And I got the Florida State Seminoles appearing here as well. Again, there are no divisions in the ACC this year, so while both these two teams may have been from the same division, both of them could make the ACC championship game. Florida State, I think I'm really high on the Seminoles this season. Jordan Travis is coming in. There's a lot of talent surrounding him. A ginormous group of wide receivers. You do get a transfer and Keon Coleman in, and there is not a wide receiver in that room that will play substantial minutes that is under the 6 foot mark. Florida State is loaded at that position. They loaded up on defensive transfers, especially on the defensive line and in the secondary. Fentrell Cypress, a very notable name there. And from the talks of everything going on, Florida State has hit on a lot of these transfers. Keon Coleman, Fentrell Cypress, among many others that are going to provide a lot of solid minutes, a lot of depth to this Florida State team. Now, these two teams do play in the regular season. I do have Clemson winning the regular season matchup, and I think Florida State's going to end up getting their revenge here. I just don't think Florida State is going to be prepared again as Florida State may not be prepared in full for the regular season matchup, and it is early in the season. It is all the way in week 4, so there is a lot of time to flip the script and to change the narrative for Florida State. Well, maybe not change the narrative. Again, I do have them beating a team in LSU, but to fix some things, to really work on their game. I think they win out from that Clemson game. I think they beat Clemson in the ACC championship game, and with a record like that, more than likely you may see Florida State in my college football playoff predictions that come out tomorrow. I just think Clemson's secondary are going to have a tough time defending the Florida State Seminoles wide receiver room a second time around, which leads me to believe Florida State will be ACC champions in 2023. There were your Power 5 conferences. We'll go through the Group of 5 conferences fairly quicker here. This game right here very well could decide who goes to a New Year's Six bowl game. It's the UTSA Roadrunners, a new addition to the American Athletic this year against the team that absolutely lit it up last season. It's the Tulane Green Wave. We're going to start with UTSA because we all know the quarterback there, Frank Harris. He is coming back, and even though Zachary Franklin is gone, there is a ton of talent that is coming back to this wide receiver room. Pretty much everyone other than Zachary Franklin comes back. The defense is going to be loaded as well. UTSA is going to be one of the better teams in the American and Group of 5 this year. Tulane may very well be the best team in Group of 5, though. They returned so much from a team that beat USC in the Cotton Bowl last season. Tulane returns Michael Pratt. He may have the best group of skill position players that the American Athletic Conference has to offer. And that defense that was so good a year ago will still be really, really good in 2023. These two teams play in the final week of the regular season, and I have them playing again in a conference championship game. denoted in their conference records will lead you to believe with the information I just told you that I do think that Tulane beats UTSA in the final game of the regular season. It's hard enough to beat a quality team like UTSA once, and it's really hard to beat them twice. And I do not think Tulane is going to accomplish that feat. I do have UTSA crashing the American Athletic Party as a newcomer to this conference and taking home the win. I think Frank Harris and company, while Tulane's defense may shine in that regular season matchup, I think in the conference championship setting, Frank Harris, that wide receiver group, and that Roadrunner defense will take over. It's going to be a very close, very competitive, possibly even a very, very under the radar game of the year contender. But UTSA and Tulane will go at it in this game. But I have the Roadrunners winning the American Athletic and possibly heading on their way to a New Year's Six bowl game as well. So that's my prediction for the American Athletic. Let's move on to the Sun Belt Conference now, where I do have the South Alabama Jaguars and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers representing their respective divisions in the Sun Belt Conference. We're going to start out with Coastal Carolina, who, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Grayson McCall is back at quarterback, and he has one of the best skill position groupings that the Sun Belt Conference has to offer in 2023. And while the defense does not have the star power that it had in previous seasons, I think this is still going to be a very good team. It's going to be a very competitive team in Conway this season. And even though Jamie Chadwell has gone off to Liberty, Tim Beck is coming in, and I think he is going to do a solid job with this Coastal Carolina program. Then you have South Alabama on the other side here as well. The South Alabama Jaguars returned a ton of talent from last season, and I mean a ton of talent. Carter Bradley is coming back at quarterback. He's got maybe besides Coastal Carolina, or you can make the case why South Alabama has the best skill position group in the entire country. The defense does have a couple pieces that are going to need to be filled in, a couple holes to be filled. But overall, I think South Alabama is going to be the best team in the Sun Belt Conference this year. I've been saying it all prediction season long. That's going to be a hard team to beat for anyone on that schedule, including the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. And while I do think Grayson McCall and this Coastal Carolina offense are going to be able to make plays to keep this game close, I think there's no doubt in my mind if these two teams are to play on a football field this season, South Alabama will be walking away with the win. I really like this team. They were a 10-win team last season. They couldn't break into the conference championship game. Troy ended up doing that. While Troy could do it again, I think South Alabama gets their revenge. They will beat Troy in the regular season. They'll beat Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship game. That offense with Carter Bradley, so many weapons, they are going to outmuscle that Chanticleer defense. And South Alabama, the Jaguars, will be named Sun Belt Conference champions. All right, we will now move on to the Mountain West Conference, where I have a rematch of last year's conference title game. It's the Fresno State Bulldogs and the Boise State Broncos. Let's explain Boise State, why they're here, because I do think by far and away, well, maybe not by far and away, but by, in my opinion, a pretty fair margin, Boise State's the best team in the Mountain West Conference. The defense definitely has some really, really good caliber talent on it, and I think will be pretty solid this year. But the story for the Broncos this year is on the offense. You have one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West coming back, whose name is Taylon Green. There we go. He is coming back. He, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks the Group of Five has to offer. And that skill position room is loaded. There is a great 1-2 punch in the running back room. Much of the wide receiver room is going to return to this team. The offensive line is going to be solid. Boise State, I think, is loaded this year, and they will be in the Mountain West Championship game. And I think so will the Fresno State Bulldogs. Now, there are some other teams that could slot in here. I definitely think San Diego State can. I definitely think Air Force can. I definitely think San Jose State can. But there are a lot of talented transfers coming into Fresno State. Why are there a lot of transfers coming into Fresno State? Because that offense lost everybody. Jake Hayner, the quarterback, is gone. You did lose a 1,000-yard rusher and 1,000-yard receiver among some good talent on defense as well. But Mikey Keene is coming in at quarterback. You have a lot of talented transfers offensively, defensively that are coming in to this program that I think are going to be pretty solid for Jeff Tedford and company. And I think it will lead Fresno State to get back to a Mountain West Conference Championship game appearance. Sadly for the Bulldogs, though, I do not think that all of that returning talent means a win for this program. in the Mountain West Championship game. They were able to beat Boise State in this game last year, but I think the Broncos will be getting their revenge this season. I really like what Boise State has this year. I think that offense is absolutely loaded. Fresno State has enough talent to keep this game close, but that Boise State offense will be too much for the Bulldog defense as Boise State reclaims the Mountain West Championship. All right, couple conferences left up here. The Mid-American Conference is up next, and I think these are by far and away the two best teams in the Mid-American Conference. We're going to start on the left-hand side of your screen with the Ohio Bobcats. This was a pretty good team last season, and well, you got a lot of returning talent coming back. Curtis Rourke is back to this team. He's got one of the best skill position groups the Mid-American Conference has to offer here in 2023. The defense, I think, should still be a pretty solid bunch for Ohio, but it starts with Curtis Rourke. Very, very good quarterback. He's got a lot of players come back, even some coming off of injury, most notably that running back in O'Shawn Allison, who is going to be returning from injury. Ohio will be a good team. I do have them winning their division in the Mid-American Conference. Toledo, though, I do think is the best team in this conference. While I do have them slipping up and losing a conference game, I really like the Toledo Rockets this year. DeQuan Finn comes back. Much of the offensive weapons within that program come back. And maybe these two teams, I think by far and away, have the best two skill position groupings that the Mid-American Conference has to offer. The Rockets defense returns much talent as well and should be another solid bunch. So can Toledo rocket their way to a Mid-American Conference championship win for the second straight season? I think they do. I think this Toledo offense is a little bit more dynamic than what the Bobcats have on the other side of the ball. And with as much returning talent as Toledo comes back, I see them winning the Mid-American Conference. Ohio is a very, very good team. I do think they will be representing their division in the Mid-American Conference. But Toledo, look, there are going to be very, very few teams that can even slow Toledo down, much less stop the offense that you are going to see out of that Rockets team this season. So Toledo, second straight year Mid-American Conference champions. And our final conference that we covered, just got done with it. Don't mind that 2021 down there, should end up putting 2023. Just forgot to cover that up on the graphics. But this is a new look conference. Liberty is one of the new teams joining Conference USA this season. Let's talk about the Liberty Flames. Look, Jamie Chadwell coming in to be that head coach. He had a very, very successful run there in my apologies. He had a very, very successful run in Conway with Coastal Carolina. And while a lot of talent is leaving that team, Shedro Lewis, you got some other great skill position players that are gone. Some good talent on defense is gone as well. You got two very solid quarterbacks that are battling it out for that solid spot. And the Liberty Flames, I think, are going to be one of the better teams in Conference USA this year, again, with some of those talented transfers they have coming in. But there's no doubt in my mind that Western Kentucky is the best team in this conference. In fact, that's why I have them winning this conference as well over the Liberty Flames. Too dynamic of an offense. Austin Reed, Corley, that wide receiver, are both coming back. Both of them were dynamic last year. They will be dynamic this year, and while the Hilltopper defense has to replace some good talent, they are going to still be a pretty solid unit, but they might not have to do a lot. Western Kentucky is going to be in a lot of offensive shootout type games this year, just based on the style they play. That offense is really, really good, and I think that offense can match anyone that you see across the entire country. So we'll leave it on this screen here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. There were all my predicted conference championship winners, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll talk about who I have in the college football playoff and every New Year's Six bowl game as well. See you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.